January 5, 1971, away from the blinding neon signs of the Las Vegas Strip, Geraldine Liston returns to her quiet home. She had been away for 2 weeks and was anxious to see her husband, the man once known as the most terrifying heavyweight champion on the planet, Sonny Liston. But as she stepped through the door, a heavy, sickly sweet odor filled the air. Geraldine checked the kitchen, the lounge, and finally she moved toward the master bedroom. When she pushed open the door, her heart stopped. There, slumped against the bed, was the cold, blue body of Sonny Liston. The police were called, a brief investigation followed, and within hours, the verdict was delivered. Heroin overdose. Case closed. But was it really that simple? How did a man who dominated the world with his fists, a man who was famously terrified of needles, suddenly die from an overdose? Today, we dive into the dark life of the champion the world feared, but who couldn't escape his own shadow. Was it a tragic accident or a cold-blooded mafia execution? This is the mystery of Sonny Liston. Life was never easy for Charles Sonny Liston. Born into a dirt-poor family in Arkansas, Sonny was one of 24 children. His childhood was marked by the lash of his father's belt and his youth by the cold bars of a prison cell. But it was behind those bars that Sonny found his calling: boxing. A prison chaplain recognized the raw, primal power inside him and pushed him toward the ring. When Sonny emerged from prison, he wasn't just a man, he was a wrecking ball. His physique was carved from granite, and his hands were so massive that custom gloves had to be stitched for him. He moved through the heavyweight division like a natural disaster, knocking out legends with a single jab. But there was a catch. Sonny Liston didn't walk alone. Behind him stood the mob. Powerful gangsters like Frank Blinky Palermo and Frankie Carbo pulled his strings. Sonny was their muscle. When the Mafia wanted him to win, he destroyed. When they wanted a favor, things got complicated. In 1962, Sonny demolished Floyd Patterson in the first round to become the world's heavyweight champion. But the public never embraced him. They saw him as a thug, a criminal, a bad man. He was the most feared human being on earth, but his ties to the underworld were a noose tightening around his neck. Then came the shift. In 1964, a loud-mouthed young star named Cassius Clay, later Muhammad Ali, stepped into the spotlight. The world expected Sonny to tear him apart. Instead, in a shocking turn of events, Sonny quit on his stool, claiming a shoulder injury. The boxing world was stunned. Was Sonny really hurt, or did the Mafia tell him to take a dive to cash in on massive betting odds? The real tragedy, however, struck in 1965 during the rematch. In the very first round, Ali landed a punch so quick and seemingly light that many in the crowd didn't even see it. Sonny went down and stayed down. History calls it the Phantom Punch. Cries of "Fix" echoed through the arena. Sonny's reputation was incinerated. Rumors swirled that the Mafia had threatened Sonny's family, that he had to lose or he wouldn't leave the building alive. Sonny was now a washout. To the Mafia, he was no longer an asset. He was a liability. And in that world, when you know too much and offer too little, your time is up. After the Ali fights, Sonny moved to Las Vegas. He was still boxing, but the fire was gone. He spent his nights in the shadows of the casinos, rubbing shoulders with drug dealers, loan sharks, and low-level mob enforcers. He was walking a path that only leads one way. Reports suggest that Sonny had become involved in the drug trade himself, perhaps as an enforcer or a middleman. But there was a glaring contradiction in his death. Sonny Liston had a debilitating phobia of needles. This was a man who could take a punch from a heavyweight without blinking, yet he would turn pale at the sight of a doctor's syringe. His wife, Geraldine, insisted until her dying day that Sonny would never, ever have injected himself with drugs. So how did fresh needle marks and a bag of heroin end up in his room? That night, Did someone hold him down? Did they give him what the underworld calls a hot shot? There are three primary theories regarding what really happened to the Big Bear that night in Vegas. Theory 1. The Mafia execution. Sonny knew where the bodies were buried. He knew about fixed fights, illegal betting rings, and the names of the men running the show. When he was no longer the champion, he became a loose end. The theory goes that the Mafia sent professionals to silence him, injecting him with a lethal dose of heroin to make a murder look like a pathetic overdose. Theory 2. The drug debt. In the gritty streets of Vegas, Sonny may have crossed the wrong people. Perhaps he took a cut of the profits he wasn't supposed to, or he owed money to a high-level dealer. In the mob's code, debt is paid in blood. Theory 3. The police cover-up. The Las Vegas Police Department in the 70s was notoriously close to the casinos and the mob. The investigation into Sonny's death was suspiciously shallow. No fingerprints were taken from the heroin bags. No thorough autopsy was initially performed. Was the truth buried to protect the clean image of the Vegas Strip? Sonny Liston was a champion the world refused to love. He fought, he bled, and he conquered, but he was always an outsider. By the time his body was found, it had been laying there for nearly a week. He died alone, forgotten by the industry that once made millions off his name. Some say if Sonny had beaten Ali, he would be remembered as the greatest of all time. But instead, his life ended in a cloud of mystery. He remains a ghost haunting the history of boxing. On his simple grave in Davis Memorial Park, there are no mentions of titles or belts. It only says, "A man." A simple epitaph for a man who spent his life trying to prove he was more than just the monster the world saw. The story of Sonny Liston teaches us that behind the glory of the ring, there is often a darkness that the cameras never capture. Sometimes, fame doesn't lead to a Hall of Fame, it leads to a dead end. Do you believe Sonny Liston really overdosed, or was he the victim of the very people who built his career? Boxing history is full of secrets, but few are as deep as this one. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark side of combat sports, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have many more rise and fall documentaries coming your way. What's your theory? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious. January 5, 1971, away from the blinding neon signs of the Las Vegas Strip, Geraldine Liston returns to her quiet home.